Hello, friend. I'm happy to have you here. In the next few minutes, I'll be presenting to you a training on Excel for beginners. I'll be showing you basic things you need to know as a way of building the foundation you need to navigate around Microsoft Office Excel. Now, why do we learn Excel? Basically, it's good you know that Excel is a spreadsheet used widely across many disciplines and professions, ranging from businesses, finance, to data analysis and project management. It is the main program commonly used for organizing data, performing calculations with data, and creating reports from data. Now I'm going to show you basically the areas of interest in this training. We're going to see how to navigate around Excel interface and some basic steps and things you need to know. I will also show you how to enter data and then format your data. And then we get to use basic formulas and functions in Excel. And then I will summarize this discussion by showing you basic regression, how to execute or how to estimate basic regression using Excel. Now let's get to Excel sheet. This is the Excel platform. Okay? There are a few things in this Excel I'll be showing you later. One of them is the fact that this Excel sheet we are looking at, this interface, you can actually, when you open Excel, you can actually look for templates. But that is not my area of interest here. I want to show you how to quickly create and save a workbook. This file, this interface we are seeing here is actually a workbook. Workbooks are made up of different sheets. Like you could see here, this is sheet 1, this is sheet 2, this is sheet 3, and so on. And you can add to this sheet. And this can actually interface. I can have data in sheet 4, but when I want to sum it up, I may decide to be summing it up in sheet 1, and it will connect to that sheet. Okay, if you just want to add extra sheet, you click here to insert new sheet. Okay, quickly it has given us sheet 6. You can actually rename any of these your sheets. Okay, let me rename this one. To do that, I'll just click on it and type basic. That has become the new name of that sheet. So that whenever I'm doing anything, the system recognizes that sheet 1 has become basic. Now, it's important you know that spreadsheet is made up of columns. These are columns, represented in alphabet, A, B, C, and all of that. And then it's also made up of rows. You see rows running from 1, 2, 3 to the end. When you have a row and a column, the intercept is what we call cell. Like this spot here is cell. This cell is basically, the name of this cell is basically B2 because this is name box. Okay, so B2, if I move it to this point, it becomes B3. If I move it here, it becomes A1. So each of the intercepts where a column meets a row is what we call cell. And it may interest you to know that Excel is so powerful and has up to 13,000 cells. Note that active cell is described the way I have shown you. Once I click on any cell, it becomes the active cell and it will appear on the name box. This is the name box here. Okay, see, the system is showing us is the name box. Okay, and then you can actually select a group of cells. When I select this way, a group of cells, it is called range. So what you see here is a range. I can actually move it to any point. So this is a range. I can select it this way. This is a range. Okay, so this range will be described by the point where it started, like B2 up to the point where it ended. This is I10. So that is the range. So this range, if one is to represent it, you will see it written as B to through. Through is represented with full column. Through I10. So that becomes the range in question, and that is what is represented by this selected portion. Okay? Now, it is important you note that in Excel, we have menu bars. These are the menu bars here. Okay? And under each of these menu bars, we have tabs. We have tabs under each of the menu bars. So if I click on Home tab, you'll see what we call ribbons. You see what we call ribbons. Say this separated by certain, boxes. In each of those boxes, you see ribbons. Okay, and for some ribbons, the space available is not enough to contain all the information needed. So you see something we call launch box. Launch button. You see this small arrow here is your launch button or dialog box launcher. Your dialog box launcher. Some of them have it. Some of them, like this one, this ribbon here is enough, so it doesn't have it. But when you check the one here that has to do with alignment, you see there is that dialog box launcher. If I click on it, it will show me more information. That is the dialog box beyond what is shown on the ribbon. Okay, and then you can actually scroll with this scroll bar here. So scroll down, to scroll down and up, and then to scroll sideways. This is the scroll bar for column, and this is the scroll bar for row. You can also decide to zoom. You see the point here where we have zoom. When you move this arrow here, plus or minus, I can decide to click on the minus here. It is zooming it in. Okay, it zooms my sheet in. I can zoom it out this way, and it makes it bold than normal. So these are basic things you need to know about zooming and scroll bar. Now, if you click on any cell, the name box, like I showed you earlier, will appear on the name box here. Okay. Now, there is also a button here. This is our close button. If you click on it, it will close this file. It is common with many Microsoft Excel files you have seen before, or you want to minimize it, or you want to maximize it. Okay, so it's important you note those buttons. It's also important you note that here is what we call formula bar. If I want to use formula in this Excel, this is the point where I will enter the formula. Even if I enter it in any cell here, it will appear right there on the formula bar. These are things you need to know. Now, when I am working with my file and I want to save it, if I have not saved it before, you click on this particular Office button. All right, and select Save As if you have not saved it before, and you select where you want to save it. Then you save it there. Now I've saved it already. By the way, if you check the link, the description on this video, you will see this file. I've dropped it for you to be able to practice with it. The good thing is that most Android phone also have Excel. If you don't have it, you can download it, the app in your Android, and also use it. So I've dropped this particular data. What you are seeing is more than what we have here. I will show you the details. Okay, so you use Save As if you have not saved it before. Okay, now I've saved it before. The system is asking, do you want to override? I say yes, please replace it. But if you have already saved it and you are making progress in your work, all you need to do is to click on this save box here. Once you click it, it saves. Or you go through the same process and click just save. Alternatively, you use Control S to save your data. It's important you save your data. Otherwise, there is only an extent Microsoft can keep it for you if you don't save it. Now, but it's not going to delete it totally. But it's important you save it for easy reference. Okay? Now, to enter data in the spreadsheet, all you need to do is to select the point where you want to enter your data. For instance, I want to enter the data of the score of students. Let's say the first student's name is Tunde. Okay, let's say his name is Obi. That is the first student. And the second student is what? Tunde. All right. So I'll enter Tunde. And then I can also decide to enter other names. Now, I want to enter the score of the student for the continuous assessment. So it's over 15, continuous assessment. And maybe this student scored, say, 10 over 15. And the next person scored 12 over 15. And then for the mid-semester exam, is also over 15. And this student scored 15 over 15. Whereas the second person scored 9 over 15. Okay, if you look at this, this is actually good, but there are information that is actually missing here that will aid comprehension. One, the figure you are seeing is not well described. Somebody may think it's something else. So it may be important to describe this data. By the way, maybe in the exam, which is over 70, this student scored 60 over 70, whereas the next person scored what? What do you prefer? Let's keep it as 45 over 70. So the point I'm making is that when we are saying somebody who doesn't know which one is mid-semester or continuous assessment or the exam. So what we may need to do here is to add a rule to that. So you see where we are. To add a rule, I'll put my cursor on the roll bar. If I put it here to add it, it may just add a cell, but I want a row. So if I put it here, I right click on my mouse. If I right click, you say insert. You click on insert, it will shift everything down. So with this now, I can quickly add other descriptions to say this is name of students. Okay, name of students. And then the next is continuous assessment, and followed by mid-semester tests. Okay, and then the exam. Now, it's still not so clear because somebody doesn't know what should be the maximum point here. So I may prefer to add information here. Continuous assessment, I could say this is 15%. Okay, 15%. Now, because I didn't use equal sign, the system reads this as text. I will explain that later. Here, that is mid-semester. I also indicate that this is 15%. All right. And then for the exam is 70%. And that gives us 100% on the whole. So you could have total here. All right. Somebody may also say, okay, the name of the student, you see, the name of the student is not totally clear here because it has gone under, a particular cell. Now, you can decide to use this particular formatting button here to make sure that all the information on that cell are displayed. Okay. Alternatively, I can expand the column this way so that the information comes out. Alternatively, instead of dragging it, I can double click here, it will expand. Or if I don't want to expand it, but I still want it to come out, I will use this particular button to make sure there's a wrap up of the text. I click on it. If I click on it and enter my data, if I click on it and enter my data and enter, it will show me the information that is there. Okay, so these are basic things you need to know. Now, I want to increase the number of these students here. And so let me take you to sheet 2 where I drop something I plan to use. We get back to this information. Let me pick the name of these students from here. We'll get back to sheet 2, but follow me back to the basic. So to pick the information, you highlight. Okay? You put your cursor in the first one and highlight it. All right? Then you click copy. Okay, you click copy, Control C is your copy, all right? Or you click on this icon here to copy. And once you see this stuff dancing around it like small ant, it shows you that copy is activated. Then I move back to basic and I drop the names of the student there. Okay, so this is beautiful. There's something I want to do now, and I wish you could join me. Sorry that it looks like a jump, but it's still part of the learning process. I want to show you how to generate random numbers. I want to generate a random score for these students without getting to bother myself so much. What do? If I click on this, I'm jumping into formula too early, but many of you are already used to Excel, so just understand this. I'll add my equal sign and then try to type random, and I see round between because I want to put a limit to the figure that will come. If I just use only random number, it will generate random number without a limit. But if I say round between, it will generate random number and limit it for me. So I double click on it, it gives me round between. So let me say that none of my students scored less than 5, so that is the bottom, and the maximum is 15 here, and that's the maximum. I close that bracket. If I hit enter, it gives me the number. So this is randomly generated, but this is not value, so to say. It's formula. If I click on it, you see the formula is what the system is seeing. If I enter here, if I click enter key again, it will generate a new set of numbers. All right. So now, when I have gotten this and I want to replicate it quickly, you move this cursor. You see, it's like a big plus sign. You move this cursor until you get to this box here. All right. Once you hit that small box at the end here, the nature of your plus sign changes to something slim, and filled up. So if I click my cursor, hold my cursor down, I can drag it down to give me other random numbers I want. And since the mid-semester is still a maximum of 15, I can also drag it that way to cover for the mid-semester. Okay. Now, say the grade it has given me, I can also drag it this way. So this is randomly generated. But any of them you are looking at is actually having this value. So when you are doing something and you want to generate random number, or you are doing sampling and you want to randomly select from a sample frame, if you check my video on how to do sampling, you'll see where this is discussed better. You can use this formula to generate number randomly. Okay, so, but if I keep it this way, each time I click on it, it gives me a new set of numbers. So to avoid this error happening, I will select those files that I generated randomly. Then I will copy it. I'll copy all of them. And then put my cursor where I want to paste. But I'm going to paste them as values so that they will no longer change. So I come here, instead of just clicking paste or Control V, I'll see this arrow here. Click on the arrow, you see paste values. So it's going to paste the values for me. Now it has pasted the value. If I click on this, the formula is no longer showing. It's showing me the value. So this is no longer relative. This is static. The values are absolute. Okay, so that is how I've got the values for this student. I just wanted to use this idea to show you random sample and random number generation. I can do the same thing for the grade of the student. So how do we do it? You remember how we did it the first time? You put your equal sign, right? And what do you type? Beautiful. I'm happy you are following. Round. Okay. Instead of typing it that way, you can also come to formula. There is a formula box here. Okay, there's formula box here. I can click on this arrow down and then go to more functions. On this more functions, because I've used it recently, it is showing on recently used formulas. Otherwise, you click on this arrow if you have not used it before until you get to math and track. Click on it, it will show you different formulas. You scroll down to R. Where you have R is where you begin to see that random. So if I click on this and double click, it drops the formula for me. It's asking me with a dialog box, what is the maximum? Let me say that none of my students did so bad. None scored nothing less than 20. That's also a poor result, by the way. So let me say the bottom is 20 and the maximum is 70. I say, all right, generate a random number for me. It gives me that this student scored 30 randomly generated. So I can also drag it down. Beautiful. But like I mentioned to you, what you are seeing here in each of the cell is actually formula. Unlike this one I typed directly, which is figure. So if I click enter key on any of these, it will generate new sets for me in all of this number generated randomly. Let's see. I click enter key. New set of figures will show. So to avoid this happening, I will quickly copy. Please, if you're a lecturer, a teacher, make sure you mark your script. Do not generate random number and put for your student. It is not fair on your students and it is not proper. So that's just by the way. Or you are doing analysis or data, you can generate number to do your trial of your model and all of that. But when you want to do something that you want to report as authentic, make sure you gather data from the field. Don't just generate data with this formula and start using them and report them to be authentic. It is not ethical. It's important I stress that. So let me quickly copy. Control C, copies, then I paste. I want to paste as value. So I go here and say value, paste as value. Beautiful. And then it has dropped it for me. So this is value now. Now, if I want to also paste this value, this number, just because we have done that, if I want to paste this number vertically to change the orientation, if I copy it, if I copy this number, Control C, I can paste it here in a way that it will run on the column, no longer running vertical. All right, it will just run, horizontally. So if I want to do that, under paste, I'll click transpose. If I click on transpose, it will drop it that way. So you can change the orientation of your data that way. That's just by the way, that's part of the learning process. So permit me to use Control Z to remove it. So we return back to where we are. So now we are here. The next thing we may want to do is to quickly add the total for this student. What is the total for the student? Okay. The total for the student can be added by summing up everything. It's easy to do. You can use your equal sign and click on summation. If I click sum, once you are typing, is to be giving you option to know the summation format of summation you want to use. But I just want to sum it up. The next is to open up a bracket at the end of that summation. It's saying add the first value, add the second value, or you add a range. So the first value for me here is D, and is D2. So I can type D2 through, that's the range, through D. The last point here is okay. If I take it from, we're adding the continuous assessment, mid-semester, and the exam. So we'll rather add B2. So we have B2 through D2. I'll close the bracket and enter. It gives me the total of this student, and simple. All right. Now, if I don't want to do it that way, I can drag. You see, there is this formula format here, and there is summation sign there. I can select all I want to add, put an extra cell where I want the result to be, and click on sum here, and it gives me the result. So they do the same thing. Now I've got that. Instead of doing it for each of them, I can use that drag method like I showed you earlier. This my cursor, I will move it until it gets to this spot here where it becomes a slim plus sign. I hold my cursor and drag it down. It gives me the value of all the students. Okay, this is the total for all the students. Okay, so now I may want to add serial number to this. So let me insert a column at the end here, like we said earlier. Insert a column. I clicked on the column bar A. When we did for row, I clicked on the row had points where they have number, But now for column, I click on the tick bar like A because I want it to come after that. So I right click on it and click insert. So the system gives me a space somewhere. So this space, I may call it their registration number. Okay, registration number. All right, let me assume that their registration number runs as series 1, 2, 3. Now it could run from 1 to 200 students. So now, but the system allows me, Excel is very intelligent. It is designed, like an artificial intelligence software. It can read the trend of what I'm doing. Now, it has seen that there is a trend, adding 1 on each of them. If I select it and then move my cursor until the end where it becomes like that slim plus, it's going to start working with the trend I created already. Watch what happens if I drag it. It's adding 1 to each point. If they're up to 100, I could drag it down until I get all the values I need to get. All right, so Control C, let me return back to base. Okay, so this is beautiful. Is that okay? Now, you may want to put a kind of what we call borderlines on this particular data to make it more beautiful or easy for comprehension. So I highlighted that and then I click on this arrow here. You see, you can put bottom border only, top border only, but I want to put in all. So I click all. It has put in all of them. All right. Now, there's something I want to quickly show you here. If I want to sort these students according to performance, because I want to know who is the highest and who is the last, there is something we have here. You see, sort and filter. I want to show you how to insert it. So let me drag this open. Okay, let me show you how to insert it. So click on the column where you want all the points you want to sort. And when I use that sorting format, anytime I sort any column, all of them will change to all together. Let me show you example. Let's highlight Ibrahim here, and let me color it in yellow. So when the figures are moving, you see that all the figure for Ibrahim will be maintained. So let's click on this, and then you can hold your shift key and click the last one. So I've highlighted all of this column A to F. Alternatively, I could highlight the first one and hold shift key and use arrow and start moving until I select all I want to select. Then I come to filter here, sort and filter, click on it. Instead of just filter, I'll click, instead of just sorting, I'll click filter. If I click on it, it adds something under each of these file names we have here, so that with that arrow I can easily filter what I want to do. So let's click filter. Beautiful. You see, it has added an arrow under each of them. So I want to sort in to know who scored highest in this exam. I can click here, this arrow, and sort, say, largest to smallest. And it will carry all the information I have in this data set, even if they are in hundreds. Beautiful. You see Ibrahim's figure, all of them move together. And it's showing me that Obi is the first here. I don't know what that means to you, but Obi is the first in the same result. I never planned it, but whatever it means to you, I wish you the very best. So that is it here. Okay. Now, and the second is in that order. Somebody who wants to quickly put figures or grades to them could quickly know that this is A, depending on the grading format in your institution and all of that. Okay. Now, if I want to sort in alphabetical order according to their names, I will sort with name and say alphabetical order A to Z. In that case, Ada becomes the first here because it starts with the first letter followed by Halima and then Ibrahim and all of that. So you can sort in different ways. You can sort to view your data and see the behavior or the trend. And then because I have a registration number, what I call serial number, I can decide to return back to the original format. And that is what I want to do here. I'll click on this and return to the original format and say small to largest. So I'm sure all of these I have done are things you will be able to do. Okay, these are things you can easily do in your Excel. Okay, now the next thing I want to show you is how to make correction. There is a difference between clicking on a cell and clicking in a cell. Now if I want to put something here, let me say that this student scored 10.5 and 12.5 and 9.5. If I click on the cell and put 12.5, it will remove everything. Once you click on it, once you start typing, it removes everything and gives you fresh values there. But if I want to click in the file, I will double click in that cell, double click on it, it will activate it and my cursor will be active. I can actually make the correction I want to make and hit enter key. Alternatively, if I click on it, I'll go to formula bar and make the necessary correction and enter, and that goes in. Okay, so I've shown you how to copy and how to paste in Excel. You can also decide to move file. Okay, you can move. Let me move, for instance, Tunde here. I've selected Tunde or his range. If I want to move it, this my cursor, instead of getting to where I normally drag, I'll move my cursor until it's on the borderline of the range or the cell I've selected. I'll hold my cursor, click and hold it and drag. I can drag it. Now I've moved Tunde somewhere else. And so if I want to delete that particular space, I will right click there and click delete. It cleans up. So Tunde has gone to where I want it to be. Okay, so that is how to move. And I've also shown you how to generate random number. Now I want to show you how to do find and replace. Find and replace. Let me assume that the name that I'm looking for here is actually not, that thing is Adana or is Adese, but I mistakenly typed Ada. I can do a search, assuming this is a huge data file running into hundreds. I can do a search for Ada that I'm looking for. If I click on this column, because of I'm looking at the name in question, okay, and right click, I can do a search. Or I'll click Control H. Control H will take me to find and replace. And then I'll type Ada. I'm looking for Ada and I want to replace it with Adese. Then I'll click OK. It finds and replaces Adese. I hope he's able to do it because this is supposed to be working with figures. Okay. Oh, beautiful. So let's rather do it on figure. Let me say that we are looking for all the 7 here. All the 7 here are actually supposed to be plus 2 points, which will give them 9. All the 7, anywhere you see 7, add 2 to it. So replace all 7 by 2. So Control H, find 7 and replace it by 9. Now I need you to know something when we do it. You see there is 67 here. It will also be affected. Okay, so click replace all at once. The system is saying Excel has completed its search and has made 6 replacements. I click OK. If you check, there is no more 7 here. And once that has done, it quickly reflects on this because it's formula we used in generating the total. Okay, now the other thing I want to show you is let me quickly do it here so that I don't forget. Assuming that I'm interested in I'm going to use GDP a lot, and I want it in a way that when I type GDP, the system should give me the full name of GDP. The full name of GDP. Okay, so I want to put automatic correction of English words. To do that, I'll go to File. File. All right, are you there? I'll go to File, then go to More. More options. Okay, I'll go to More options. All right, this is More options. Once I get to More options, I will quickly look for proving. Okay, I'll click on it. It said change how Excel corrects and format text as you type. You know, you want to change it how it formats as you type. All right, you click on that option. It's showing you things already there. So let me type GDP. But this GDP, I want the system, anytime I type it, what I want the system to drop is gross domestic products. That's what I want the system to give me. So I add it in the things to be corrected. You see, the ones that already there, if someone mistakenly type FWE, the system should drop it as few. You know, these kind of errors that are common are already inbuilt there. So if there's something you are doing that you need it to be corrected, you can add it on your system and your system will recognize it. Now I've added it, it's already there. So okay, now let's return back to our Excel, and here I want to add GDP. I'll type GDP, enter. The system gives me gross domestic product. I just remember this a skill I needed to learn. Okay, now having said that, it's important we do some border mass, you know, formula, this kind of mass that we were taught in our high school, where you can multiply, add, and do other things. Maybe I will do it when we enter into the next sheet. Permit me to get to the next sheet here. This next sheet is where I decided to treat what is called BMI, body mass index. And the formula for body mass index is specified. Weight, that's in kilometer, divided by height, raised to power 2. Okay? Beautiful. So the names of the students are also specified, and their gender, then the age, the height. Generally, this height is in cm. To convert it to meter, you divide by 100. And then this is the weight. So this is the BMI. To calculate my BMI here, all I need to do is to put my cursor here. All right. And then I select, I can type the value I want to divide. But I'll select the weight. This is the weight. And where is the weight? This is the weight of this guy you'll be. So it's showing me the name. Okay. The name of the cell is BE2. Okay. Divide. I'll use slash to do divide. Then what is the height? The height is in cm is 180, but I want it in meter. So I will put it, let me open a bracket there, so that each time the system wants to do it, it will divide it first. And I'll put that height and say divide by 100. I'll close that. So when it divides it by 100 and close it, it will now give me the exponential, the raised to power 2 here. And raised to power 2 is with this sign in most systems on top of 6 and all of that. You could see this sign that looks like a cap. Then 2. So make sure that the system does this calculation, dividing by this and raising to power before dividing by our weight. I will put all of this in another bracket. Okay, I closed it with a bracket. Now the system is showing me that this first one is in dark color, if I'm not mistaken, and the new one I've opened is in green. So it's requesting for, I've closed is in green, is requesting for the opening of that bracket. So I put it before that D2. Okay, so the system will first do this division, which is inside the bracket, using the common border mass formula we were taught in many years ago. Okay, then it will now do the exponential, it will raise to power, all right, and then it will now divide. So if I click enter key, it gives me the value. So the BMI of OB is 24.69 and all of that. And remember how we did it? Instead of doing it for all of them, I can move my cursor until it gets to this point where it has plus sign. I will drag down and get the values for all of them. Okay, now this value, I can decide to format it to have 2 decimal place only. If I want to do that, I will right click on this result that meanwhile is showing me in formula. I can also decide to copy and put it in value, but let me keep it that way. I will right click on it and click format cells. Format cells. I'll click on number, it's showing me general. So under number here, 2 decimal places. I'll click OK because it's in 2 decimal places. I can move it to 3 decimal places. I can also format it in different ways. I will get back to this format and show you some specific format someone can use at any point. Okay, now let me we made an assumption here. Let's say that BMI that is less than 22 is underweight. Above or equal to 22 is overweight, and underweight is represented with 0. Overweight is represented with 1. Okay, so we want to classify this by using a function if conditional statement. So we want to say if this BMI is greater than 22, is less than 22, assign 0 to this classification. If not, assign 1. So we'll put your equal sign and type if. Open a bracket as usual in formula generation, and it's showing you the logic here. The logical test is what you expected to do. What is it? The logic here is that we are looking at our BMI. If it is less than 22, add my value, that value is 0. Otherwise, add 1 if it is false. So I'll click on this cell that represents BMI for B and say if it is less than 22, comma, add 0. Another comma, S, add 1. I'll close the bracket. It gives me the result quickly. And then I can drag it down to cover for all of them. And that gives me the classification for each of them. For those who are underweight and for those who are overweight, incidentally, only 2 of them by this standard, this is not a very standard measurement, all right, are underweight. Okay, so this is basically what I wanted to show was in terms of how to use formulas. Okay, now you can also decide to multiply. You can also decide to if you decide to do a multiplication with 0, okay, it will give you an error sign. And when you see it, it's important that you note it. Okay. Now, let me say that I want to multiply this their height. Okay, the height. Let's leave the height. The year. I want to multiply their year by 2. This is not a very standard job. I just want to show you something. Okay, I want to multiply this their height by 2. So let me say there is 2 here. Okay, that 2 is actually what? I1. Okay, so I want to multiply it and I want the result to appear somewhere here. So age, this times the age, times, you use the asterisk and put that 2 and enter. The system gives me a result, right? Now, if I drag this down, the system will be expecting this 2 to be at bar with all of that. Let's see what happens. The system is not able to drag this 2 because it's not repeated in the column. But I want this factor to go for all of them. What I need to do is, instead of just typing I1, I will put a sign here that will show the system that I want this particular value to be repeated without changing. And to do it, in this my formula, I will put a $sign in front of the I. Alright, $sign to say that cell should be static. And then in front of A, which represents the rule, I'll put another $sign to show that this should be static. I enter. Now I've done that. If I drag it, it will be able to keep these 2 running for each of the years in question. Let me show you. Beautiful. Okay, so when you have a factor you want to use and multiply a set of values, and that number you are not repeating it for all of them, use this $sign to specify the row and the column, and you will get exactly what you want. I'm sure you have followed us up to this point. Okay, now permit me to quickly show you how to do few descriptives, and based on that we will be doing charts, and after charts we can begin to see how to wrap up here. Okay, let me move this stuff down. Remember, like I said, I can drag this away from here because I'm done with what I wanted to show you. Now I want to show you that you can actually save a range. Okay, you can save a range. Let me, like this, there BMI, I can select all of that, okay, and give it a name. Okay, and give it a particular name. Now you see I've selected BMI. I can click on this arrow here and select a name. What name do I call it? BMI range. Let me call it BMI range. Okay, so that's the new name. Oh, because I gave space, that's why it's quarreling. So let's say BMI range, because it's a fine name. So it now sees this value here as BMI range. Okay, it sees it as BMI range. It sees it as BMI range, so I can actually use it to do something. Okay, if I want to now multiply, for instance, this BMI by 2, if I click equal sign and click come here and say BMI, okay, if I click on it and then click BMI range, you see BMI range, and now put times, and now put 2, it gives me that value. Okay, BMI range. Okay, all right, so let's leave that. let me quickly take you to some basic descriptive, and one of them is issue of summation. So here we may add our summation. Okay, summation, we may have average. Okay, and then the highest value. Okay, and then the lowest number. You see, I clicked in the cell. Okay, now the lowest. Okay, all right. So now I have indicated this. I may also decide to add more. Medium. I can add the mode. I can add standard deviation. Okay, variance. This is variance, and then I can add standard deviation. Okay, I can add standard deviation. All right, so let me quickly show you how to do the formulas are already clear. Now for summation, I've shown you this before. All we have to do is to type sum equal to sum. Then you put the range. The range here is C. I can actually select the range and then close the bracket. It gives it to me. Then I will drag and get all I needed here. Okay, so permit me to remove this because I'm done with what I'm doing with it. All right, so for average, you can also use the formula like I've used sum here. Okay, you can also use the file here and say average. You click on average. All right, now average, you see it's selecting also my sum, but I don't want the sum to be part of average. I will drag it up. I held shift key and moved arrow up. It gives me the average. So this is the average value here. I can also drag it to the end. Now the highest value, you use max equal to max. Open a bracket and put the range. I want to get the maximum. So it shows me the maximum age here. I can also drag it that way to get the maximum. The minimum, the same thing, equal sign, mini. Open a bracket. So I hope I'm not being too fast. We need to finish up this session. I never wanted it to go beyond an hour, but the next few minutes will be rounding up. All right? Okay. Beautiful. So this is the minimum age, 21. And then you can also get all of that. You want to find the medium. That's if you arrange all of this serially. Okay. If you arrange all of them, which one is the medium? So you can also use the same formula, the same format. Okay, equal sign. You type the formula. As you are typing, the system is suggesting to you. You also take the range because I'm not seeing the top now. So I drag from bottom to up. I close it. It gives it to me 24. The mode, I can equally drag this. Beautiful. Then the mode. So these things are simple. You know that sometimes because someone has not been shown how to do it, it looks like it's difficult. This is beautiful. You see what happened here? Okay. What is actually the mode? So tell me why it's not working, not available. All right, because all of them, there's none that occurred more than twice. Okay. So let's see the variance. You just type that variance and put P and then select what you want to calculate. close the brackets. It shows you the variance. You can drag it. Okay. Standard deviation is just the same thing. These are basic descriptive. As I'm typing, it's showing me I'm using the one with P at the end. Then I will select all of that. All right, so this is the variance. Now some people wonder, what does this standard deviation implies. When you have your average is somewhere around here, 25.7. okay, 25.7, 25.7. okay, since it's 25.7, it shows that many of them from this average, 25.7, from this average, the average is 25.7. If you add approximately 4.5 there, you will be getting something around 30. If you minus it, you'll be getting something around 20. So many of them ranges between 20 and 30. That's what that is actually saying. Okay, so having shown you that, the next I want to show you is the issue of trend and chart. We can actually do a trend for this. Okay, let me move, let me create a space here and move this gender to this end. You select, all right, you select and then move. Okay, let me also move this one here, and that's the name. Okay, now if we decide to select everything here, it's good, it may give us something that looks very crazy and confusing. I want to press Control F1 and see what it gives us. Okay, now if you want to do this charts, it's seeking for help. I don't need that help now. If you want to do this chart, now we have selected this spot, you go to insert. Under insert, there are different kinds of charts you can insert, whether it's column or line or pair chart or bar or area or scatter diagram and all of that. You select what you want to do. Let's select one of these. The information could be, you see the information we have there, it is showing us the details for OB. This is OB. It's showing us the age, it's showing us the height, it's showing us the weight, the BMI. For each of them are specified that way. Okay, and then the summation is also there, which is actually not part of what we need. So how do I remove this summation in my chart? How do I remove this summation in my chart? Let me zoom in so that we can see this chart properly. All right. Now, how do I remove this? If I click on this, you see, I put my cursor at this end until that arrow at both ends shows, and I'll drag it up and release it. It puts away that summation. This is better. Okay, and then you can decide to format this your chart by scrolling here to add other details. You know, a quick layout. In this quick layout, I can decide to create a space where I will add title on top, okay, and description below. So if I click on this first one, it gives me opportunity to type the title here. Okay, and what is the title? Students PMI. Okay, if I want to add description somewhere below under the layout also, you could see the one that gives you room to add description below. You see this one? I can click on it. So this is quick layout depending on exactly what you want. Okay, let me click on this. It gives me room to add definition here. I want to say that this is student's name. Okay, and this is a bit difficult to describe, so I may want to put it away because what is here includes age and all of that. So this is like your chart. You can decide to change your chart at any point. Okay, you can decide to change your chart at any point. If I go to insert and say instead of this I want it to be bar chart, it goes that way, and then it gives me this figure. So this is just basic about charts. If you need to know more about charts, you may need to check other trainings on charts, but it's something that any of you can do. Now let's get back to Control C to what we had before. Okay, and let me go back to that. Our basic is or instead of going to basic, let me quickly take you to sheet 3. There's something I have in sheet 3. Sheet 3 is where I plan to discuss regression, basic regression in Excel. Okay, just the next few minutes will be out of this training. You have done so well. I appreciate your patience. Now if you look at this, there are some places you see hash as though it's missing data. Please, it's not missing data. The space here is not enough to show you the information. If you scroll down, you may still see it in some other spots. So all you need to do is to drag this space open and it will show the value. Okay, if I zoom it in and select all of that, if I double click in between that space, it shows me all the value there. Okay, so let me quickly select GDP and put a trend. Insert trend line. It shows me the trend line. Okay, it shows me the trend line. Now what if I don't want to do trend line and I select it and ask it to chart, give me a chart? The system gives me a chart. This chart looks somehow. I can decide to insert the trend line here. Right click on this. Okay, right click on it and select data. Yeah, this is basically if I want to format it, but this is just like the behavior of this GDP. Okay, now but permit me, I want to quickly show us how to do regression. I was mentioning earlier that you could format this your file in a way like this. GDP is in millions, but Central Bank of Nigeria, where it was collected, narrowed it down this way. I can decide to narrow it down in, if I remove other 3 zeros from it, it will be in billions, right? That will be in billions. So if I want to format it that way, I right click on it and say format cell. This is what we used earlier when we selected number. Now I'm not interested in decimal place. I'm rather interested in having this value reduced in a way that it is counting in billion. So in billion means I'll remove 3 zeros from it. So to do that, I'll go to customize. You see where you have customize? You click on customize. It's showing you how to do different things. Okay? Showing you how to do different things. Alright, so now what I want to do is this. I want it to give me the first 2 values after the first 2 values. That is what I want it to give me. Okay, and then okay, now let's do it this way. I want you to give me the values and then remove the rests and use dots. Okay, so give me the first, is it two values or the first value? Yeah, let's click on this and say okay, let's see how it plays out. It narrows down that value. Now, but what happened? Let's go back. What did he remove? I needed to remove 3. So right click, format cell, beautiful, customize. This my hash. Remove everything and allow the last one to stay. Let's see what happens when we click OK. So it removes all the decimal points. So this is basically how to do your formatting in a customized formatting. Alright, those in accounting, they do it a lot. But let me quickly take us to, just to be sure we're on the same page before I start data analysis. If you go to Excel, to do regression in Excel, I want to remind you that we have 2 major branches of regression. We have simple regression and multiple regression. Simple is because you have only one independent variable, and multiple you have more than one. And this is your dependent variable. I mean, simple because you have only one independent variable. So the first one before your equal sign is the dependent variable. The one inside is the independent, because GDP here is depending on export. Okay, it's depending on export. Here is GDP is depending on export and import. Okay, now most Excel files do not have what we call analysis 2-pack. It doesn't have it by default. It's something you add under the add-in. So to do add-in, in case it's not on your system, I've used it before, so it's easy for me to see it on my system. If it's not on your own, you go to File, Option. Under Option, you click Add-ins, and then you search for Analysis 2-pack, click on it, click to use, click Go to Data, and then it will appear there. I'll show you quickly how to do that. Let's see this Excel. Mine is already somewhere here. I hope I'm right. In my data, I could see it here. This is where it's going to appear. Data analysis. Okay. If it's not on your own, you go to your office button, click on it. All right. Then click on Excel options. Under Excel options, you will see add-ins. You click on add-ins. When you click on add-ins, you will search for it. This is analysis 2-pack. If you double click on it and then click somewhere here, go, and then click OK. If you now click OK, if you click OK, it will quickly add it to your system, and so you'll be able to do what I want to do now. And what is it I want to do? I'll go to my own. Under data, you now see it somewhere here. Data analysis. It's giving me different options, and with that 2-pack, you can do ANOVA, you can do correlation, you can do different things. But my interest in this training is just regression. So I click on regression. It's asking me to put my Y range. My Y range is my dependent variable. So I'll quickly select that GDP. I select from beginning to the end, where GDP stopped. Then for my X-axis, I will select, what are we selecting? Let's select export to where exports ends. And then I click OK. It gives me a beautiful result. A beautiful result of regression analysis. So a lot of people don't know that you can actually use Excel to do regression. You see my dependent variable, this is coefficient and all of that. See the result there. Okay, standard deviation, t-test, the p-values are there. Okay, so this is a beautiful result of simple regression. All right, and I did it with Excel. Now, if I want to, I didn't specify, the system put it for me on a different sheet. I can actually decide the sheet where I want it to be. Okay, so this is let me do multiple. Multiple means having more than one. So I select GDP and import all of that. I select all of them. Okay, and then see, if you do it this way, you have trouble. Okay, so just click on that. Then my regression dependent variable is already selected. My independent variable, instead of selecting only export, I decide to select export with other things. Now I'm selecting export with other things, but watch that I've included the variable name on top. So I'll click here to note that the variable name is also included. So for GDP, I would like to equally include the variable name so that the system will be able to know the variable in question I'm working with. All right, so it's here you decide, do you want it on a new sheet? If I want it on a new sheet, I click OK. If I want it to be on this same sheet where I'm working, I will click here. Output range. You select where you want the result to be. I want the result to be somewhere. Okay, or let's keep it on a new sheet so that because it is multiple, it's going to be huge. All right, beautiful. So which other thing do you need here? I don't think we need any other thing. We click OK. It gives us the results of a multiple regression. Because I included the variable name, it's showing me all the variable names. See the first one, I didn't include variable name. The system called x variable 1. But here I included variable name, it has also included it for me. Okay, so that is very, very important. And on that note, I will be summarizing somewhere here. And the next thing you may want to do is to print your results. Okay, to print your results, you click on the office button. Okay, and then you may want to click prepare. Is that what you want to click? Okay, click on print rather and click print preview. Click preview will tell me whether all my result is accommodated or not. So it's accommodated. So I can go ahead to print. If you click on print, it will now, you decide on the printer where you want to drop it. Otherwise, you can print on PDF and share with friends or put somewhere else. Okay? So that is how to print. Sometimes if you view your data, and what you like this particular one, if I want to print now, okay, if I want to print, the system may not see all of them. So let me say print preview. The system is seeing only my chart, it's not seeing the figures, and I want the figures to be there. So what do? I can quickly ask for setup. Let me do landscape. Okay, this is landscape already. Okay, so I may want the system to quickly do what we call page breaking. Go to layout. All right, under layout, orientation, I want to take landscape. Okay, and then page breaking. Okay, page breaking will help me know what has entered in my page and what did not enter. Okay, now let me view it. I'll put page break in somewhere and I can view it in print preview. Now we see what has entered and what has not entered. Okay, so this I can quickly adjust to, you see, what has entered and what did not enter. I can easily see it from this end. Okay, so I can close this. You see the line here, this is where the first page stopped. And there's nothing here. I can delete this and also minimize this. Okay, to see how much that can enter. If I like, I can also reduce the height of this my graph and then view it again. Print, preview. It has actually entered, but it's not entering the way I want. So let me move this my chart down since it's on the same page. So this chart I drag on top and decide to put it somewhere here and then view again. It is viewing highlighted because that chart is highlighted. That's why it's seen only the chart. Okay, so preview. So it's showing me all of that now on the same sheet. So I can decide to print at this point. So on that note, I want to say a very big congratulations to you for participating in this training. Okay, participating in this training. I want to say that you have completed Excel training for beginners if you're able to master those basic things I've shared with you here. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe and share with others so that they can benefit from this simplified training. Thank you once again and God bless you. I wish you the very, very best in your quest towards becoming a data analyst. Happy cheers.